Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the upcoming schedule on NA. I've noticed something that I think the devs are going to try to pull a fast one on us, maybe mix some stuff around, maybe do some stuff that we don't expect, and I wanted to kind of bring this theory to light, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So just to start out with here, guys, I want you guys to understand there's a little bit of inherent shift that happens every single year on NA. We end up getting about a week's worth of time added in for the Thanksgiving banner that we have every single year, and we tend to end up having about a month's worth of time added every year as well for the shift with our anniversary. Now, these aren't too tumultuous. In fact, really only the week for Thanksgiving really adds any time, because in a sense the month's shift that we have for anniversary just causes them to sort of juggle the events and switch them around. So like I said, there is some inherent shift that happens every year. This is stuff we know about, stuff we plan around, and it's stuff that really the devs can't hide too much from us. But for instance, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about here, here's the current NA summer event. It ends on August 1st. For reference, on JP, the event didn't even start until the 17th. So there's a little bit of leeway there. We're about 3 weeks ahead, and that seems kind of odd. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because, again, this event didn't even end until the 7th on JP. And even if you come look down at JP's anniversary for year 5, it didn't even start until August 10th. So you guys can see we're still not even at that point as of me recording this video. So this is something I wanted to talk about because, again, yeah, we've got about 3 weeks worth of time and they need to put something in, and I can go super theory craft here with you guys and try to cover all of that. But, you know, I'll just mention a couple possibilities. One is we haven't really been getting the waltz campaigns. These don't really take up time though, so that's a very obvious thing a lot of people are going to point out. These were mainly just to sort of celebrate the actual waltz app that came out. It was a very interesting sort of dance app that you guys were able to play. And again, this sort of ends up tying into next year, our collab event, which is the FGO Waltz event. And it's a very fun one, it's a very nice one, but we haven't got any sort of like pre-campaign for that yet. So I don't know if they'll be bringing at least the app to NA proper or not. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But like I said, these don't take up time. So what we need is we need something to basically pad the time with. And I think there's numerous things that they could do. They could end up pulling forward something from the future. We've seen them do this time and time again. We're also sort of missing any sort of content for the FGO the stage thing. This is something that they announced back in the dev diary saying, hey, we're going to be translating the FGO the stage plays, and they never ended up doing that. In fact, we're about a year later now and we haven't heard hide nor hair on that. So at some point they've got to do something with that, and that could definitely take up time, but we don't know. These sorts of things are just sitting out there. Similarly, we've also got stuff like the Camelot movies where we didn't necessarily get a whole lot for it. They could use that sort of pad for time, but that's a little bit of a tricky one because that one's also tied to a Grail front later on, and we don't have Grail fronts yet on NA because the first one is going to be Show Fest. So unless they want to run that out of order, that'd be a little weird, and that's probably not the smartest thing for them to do, considering the actual Grail fronts end up working in a way where each Grail front, the AI sort of gets a little bit better tuned and a little bit more difficult. It's really not that difficult in the grand scheme of things, but it's something that they did on JP, and I think it'd be weird for them to maybe go out of order and release a harder Grail front and then go to an easier one, but that may be me overthinking it. So again, there's a whole bunch of other stuff they can do. We have stuff that they've already done, stuff that they've already pulled forward and celebrated on NA, so it's causing a little bit of weird churn here. There's one other possibility, and I think the devs have already given us this hint. Now, back at the anniversary panel that they celebrated at Anime Expo, they gave us a little bit of a tidbit, a little bit of a nugget that a couple of us picked up on. LostBelt 5.5 is coming in November. That's kind of odd because it's supposed to happen in December, and there's two ways they can really go about it. So like we said, LB 5.5 ends up not really starting properly until December 4th. This is an interesting thing that they're saying it's November, but it's not out of the ordinary. In fact, we watched them sort of move LB 5.2 ahead a little bit of time. So there is always going to be the safety net possibility of, hey, we said November, well, we mean actually November 30th, and so we're just moving it ahead like 5 days. That's not a huge shift. Again, though, there is that sort of padded time that we talked about, so it's certainly possible that that's just the case. But there's another distinct possibility that I noticed. And to get into that, let's talk about hard dates. So with FGO NA, there are 2 hard dates every year. And what I mean when I say hard, they're actually hard. Like, there is no way to fluctuate sort of where the campaign happens. It must occur on this date. The first one of those is anniversary. We had just talked about this. It is always the weekend of Anime Expo. And while I say that one's hard, we did actually get a 1-day fluctuation at the beginning of this year. I was predicting all the way back in January that our anniversary was going to be on July 2nd. They fooled me because for once the panel was not on Saturday and was instead on Sunday. And thus, even though I predicted it about 6 months out, I was only off by like a day. So it ended up being July 3rd and we were still perfectly fine. But that is definitely one of the more hard dates. A lot of people will sit there and tell you, well, Khad, Thanksgiving is also one because of the holiday. It is, but it isn't. They can definitely wiggle that one around a little bit. Same thing with Christmas, as we've seen them do some pretty crazy stuff about when they celebrate Christmas. The only other truly hard date then is New Year's. And it's basically a deal where every single time on January 1st, you will have a New Year's celebration. It's one of the hard dates we can work with. NA keeps sort of trying to mess with our clairvoyance and throw stuff in that we don't expect, but we can always count on anniversary and New Year's to be accurate. And that's kind of why we look to this sort of stuff as, hey, if we're trying to figure out schedule, I start there. We just recently got done with anniversary and we're hearing them talk about something happening in November for LostBelt 5.5. The closest thing to that is New Year's. That's where we're going to start. Just kind of look at this. JP basically ended up having a sort of pre-campaign for New Year's. They were padding for time a little bit, but again, keep in mind, this did overlap here with the end of Christmas as it happened here on the 30th. So Carnimas happens late in December. It's basically meant to occupy the latter end. And hilariously enough, Carnimas, which starts on the 16th, overlaps with an interlude campaign they tried to run, which also overlapped with the end of heian-kyo, aka 5.5. So again, you've got some weird sort of stuff going on here where everything is smushed and everything is overlapping. It's entirely possible that for the NA server, they try to stretch this back out. They try to make it so that it's normal. So we do know that this sort of pacing works because JP did it. We can definitely say they could follow it. And then maybe all you really need to do here, as you guys look and see, hey, you've got the interlude campaign starting on the 14th. Hey, you had the second banner starting on the 11th. You could just add a couple more days to this and a couple more days to this, and basically end up giving the interlude campaign its own week. That right there would probably be the 5 days that you would need to push down the start of 5.5, and that'd be good. So that is one of the, quote, good solutions to the schedule hint that the devs have thrown out. Now, the only weird part about that is November 24th is our Thanksgiving. So if they wanted to give us a Thanksgiving banner, they certainly could, but they'd probably have to start it about like Thanksgiving Eve. They'd have to start it the day before or something like that to make it last and maybe end on the 29th, thus giving you LostBelt 5.5 on the 30th. So it's definitely something they can do, but definitely not something they necessarily should do here. So it just depends. But again, you guys can see the pacing here. Let's go look at November proper though. So we have the 1.8 million followers commemoration. This isn't going to take up any time. This is just sort of one of those one-off celebratory campaigns. It doesn't actually accompany either a banner or, again, any sort of like in-game, like, hey, half cost or anything like that. So you don't have to worry too much there. But here we go, oh wait, there's supposed to be a heian-kyo, a 5.5 pre-campaign. Well, that would necessarily probably have to overlap with whatever is running at Thanksgiving. And just to sort of show you guys this and what's in it, you guys can see there is doubled friend points. There are also strengthening quests. There's nothing that says, hey, we can't run this at Thanksgiving, but probably the weirdest part would be it has a banner alongside those strengthenings. So this would definitely be a little bit odd to run this during Thanksgiving, which typically has its own banners. You could certainly try to incorporate it in, but this would be a little bit of a messy thing, so it would just depend on how they wanted to do it. Also, in the past, Thanksgiving hasn't really had 4 stars on rate up. It's typically only been our SSRs, so this would be yet another thing. In fact, I believe there's only one other instance where there was a 4-star in Thanksgiving, and it was, I believe, the original. It was Medea Lily that showed up. Now from here we get the 22 million downloads campaign, and this one's actually sort of a better combination. You guys can see it does overlap with the heian-kyo pre-campaign there almost exactly. And it's kind of funny because if you're going to combine anything with Thanksgiving, this one makes the better sense because you get all free quests first time clear half AP, you get 2 times super and great success, main quest quarter AP, and all the daily quests open. This would be a perfect thing to run at Thanksgiving because it's very similar to what we already run for Thanksgiving. This would be them giving NA exactly what NA wants without having to give NA anything extra. So this might actually aggravate some people that notice this, but otherwise it would be a sneaky thing for the devs to do. So there's not a whole lot that, you know, they couldn't do in relation to this, and it would still end up working out perfectly fine. And similarly, your summoning campaign here is just going to be Murasaki. This doesn't interfere with something like Thanksgiving because it's just the SSR. You could just run this on one of the days or make her sort of the centerpiece of the Thanksgiving celebration this time around. But now you guys can see the next thing up here is Imaginary Scramble. And again, we're working backwards from the hard date. Imaginary Scramble, gonna be a little bit harder to move. This is actually your 4.5 event. So similarly how Ooku is a 3.5 event and integral to story, this is also going to be a integral to story event. It's not like 5.5 because 5.5 is more of a story chapter where it's actually like just normal story. Imaginary Scramble is going to be an event instead. They can move this, but it must occur prior to 5.5 for it to go in order. Otherwise, they're going to be really screwing with the order and, you know, messing with people's perceptions. I'm not going to spoil Imaginary Scramble for you guys. It is going to be a fun event. I'm really looking forward to it. But the other issue that we have here is it also involves a pre-campaign, one that started a week before it. So again, you can see there's a lot of padded, built-up time here that started to occur here on the JP server. And here's what's weird again. Now we're in October, and we get the Christmas rerun. Remember, guys, we're 3 weeks ahead still. Maybe 2 now if you consider them padding in a week with Thanksgiving. So them combining other campaigns with Thanksgiving is actually a bad thing. They need to stall. So the fact that this is the case and is already occurring late October for Christmas is weird in and of itself. Advance that 3 weeks and you've got a really weird problem where this could be happening literally at the beginning of October, possibly even the end of September. That's definitely odd. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. So we'll just have to wait and see how they want to do this. Again, you got your 1900 days anniversary, not a big deal. Nothing else here is going to really take up any sort of time in the schedule. These sort of banners can just run concurrent with everything else. Here you go. Here's FGO the stage. Solomon. Again, we heard that they're translating Camelot and Babylonia. We haven't heard anything on Solomon yet. So this is another weird thing where, hey, they just had this sort of commemorative campaign. It didn't take up any time, but this is also just going to exacerbate this for NA. It still hasn't heard any news on this sort of thing. And then we get to Guda Guda. So this is our other hard lock here. So again, this one chains right into Christmas after it. This is Guda 5. Again, this is Yamatai. This is going to be a pretty interesting event for a lot of us. It's going to be a raid event, and it's going to be post our lotto. In fact, just kind of hint on that. Basically, down here in September, you have Shisho Fest, which chains right into some hunting quests, which chains right into a summoning campaign, a pre-campaign for Gouda alongside it, and similarly a raid event. So you go literally lotto, hunting quest, raid event, and at this point in time they actually didn't give you very many apples for JP, so a lot of people were kind of annoyed by that. But just try to preserve what you can, try to focus on what mats you need farming. But the thing I'm trying to illustrate with this for you guys is that your schedule's kind of locked in place. There's not a whole lot they can do, or so it seems. And what I wanted to talk about is a simple what if scenario. because again, here you are with Shisho Fest now in September. So you guys know we have the lotto guides out for this already. You guys can definitely go check those out. But Shisho Fest might be coming sooner than you expected. And this is something that is definitely an interesting thing. Shisho Fest could be happening early September for us. Why? Because there's not a whole lot else they have to run. We've got an interlude campaign. We've got Waltz, which doesn't take up any time. We've got the 21 million downloads, which will take a week up of itself. And then here you guys go. We're back in August. This is where you are. You are here. And the only thing that you haven't run at this point, because remember, we're late July, early August, depending on when this video gets released. But the only other thing they have to put in here is Ooku. It's the only thing from the past that they haven't run yet, and it's because they did some weird schedule shift already. We pretty much know Ooku rerun is coming. We don't know why they waited, but it's definitely nice to see that now JP had a banner with Kama with the main interlude coming. So that's probably what they did, is they used the Ooku main interlude on JP to help prep the files for an A, but it's still a very interesting thing. So they can certainly slot in Ooku here in August in place of the summer event that we've already had now, and that'll help pick up slack and take up time, but it doesn't cover all the time. We're still ahead, and there's a little bit of an issue there with that. So what happens if maybe we start to get everything about a week or two early, and then maybe we start thinking, hey, you know, we had Christmas in December and also Christmas in October. So I present to you a theory. What if instead we end up flip-flopping some stuff? We basically push everything down, everything from 5.5, okay? Everything from the original release of 5.5. What if we push that all down in the schedule and basically end up putting 5.5 before Thanksgiving in the area that Imaginary Scramble occupies? Similarly, we push Imaginary Scramble forward, we push basically all this stuff up, and then we take Christmas. And instead of running it in October, we put it where 5.5 was going to be. Now you have both your Christmas events in December, and the schedule works a lot cleaner that way. Everybody's happy because you get heian-kyo early, you get more story faster, because Imaginary Scramble also moves up, and they basically run 3.5 into Land of Shadows, Shisho Fest, into Gouda 5, into 4.5, into heian-kyo, which is 5.5. Then you get Thanksgiving and 2 Christmases to round out the year. Schedule flows a little bit better that way. So that's the thing that I've realized, is there's 2 routes. Route number 1 is to proceed exactly like they have, with just everything kind of being moved up a little bit in time. And then route number 2 is to basically go, hey, everything is proceeding exactly as planned for December until we get to heian-kyo. We take heian-kyo, we flip-flop it with Christmas, and then everything else in between moves up. It works out. Now I want to be clear here. It's certainly possible this isn't the case, and that the former theory that I proposed, where it's just happening right there at the end of November, is possible. But this is definitely something I entertained. This is something I sat there and went, wait, hold on, we have some really weird scheduling issues this year. What if that's why? Is they just plan to flip-flop it all to make it flow better? And if you think about it that way, it does work. So again, I'm not saying this will be the case. Don't just immediately go run off and assume that's the way the schedule is going to work, but it's something you guys should keep your eye on for the future. Watch for the signs, wait and see kind of what gets run when. If things start going out of order, you're going to have an idea that they are trying to mix up the schedule, churn that up a little bit, and ruin our clairvoyance. It's something they've been trying to do. We literally watched Albert rant about that at the anniversary. I think this is definitely a theory that could happen. Just keep in mind, it's just a theory. Thank you guys for watching today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to check me out on Twitter. Feel free to check me out on Twitch, where I stream weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Always FGO first. And again, I will see you guys for the next video. Have a good one.